First up, how you can join the manhunt for the producer who stole my sunglasses. I feel naked without my swag. Next, the full details on Greta Thunberg's mission to bring AIDS to Gaza. Next, Portland tells Trump to keep troops out of Portland, saying U.S. soldiers on the ground might reawaken the Chaz Warriors. Next, exclusive interview with Mayor Adams, who said the first thing he will be doing on retirement is cashing in and getting Turkish Air. Next, an exclusive look at why hookers don't have Yelp reviews to warn other prostitutes about bad clients. And the new movement amongst night crawlers to lobby Congress and restore the sanctity of safe words in sex dungeons. I'm going blind in here. And lastly, the details of Pete Hegseth's meeting with top military brass, reminding them that everyone needs to start looking more handsome. Complaints in the media about the cost of 800 generals traveling in has many asking, why do we have so many generals? Well, after a media freakout over what would transpire, it turned out to be a big old bluster speech of removing DEI, something no one really objects to, having cooler names, and of course being prepared to get out there and fight everybody. Something you can just do and not have to have a speech about, making many wonder who exactly he was lecturing. And lastly, many in the media asked the Trump administration what they will be doing about producer insubordination.
All right. What is up, everybody? Apparently, I messed up the intro and spent a couple seconds there of Pete Hegseth's ass. There'd be worse politicians to have your face up their asshole. Having a bit of a day today, everybody. But we got a lot of topics to cover. We've got an unbelievable amount of topics to cover. And tomorrow's the day of Jewish Atonement. Actually, it's Wednesday. And I do show up to synagogue for that. Get harassed by security. Sit in the back corner of the balcony, keep to myself. And I woke up this morning and somehow I had a dead bird in my apartment. Have you ever had a dead bird in your apartment? I don't know why. It decided to somehow fly through the window and just go straight into a glue trap. I don't know how long it's been there for. I don't know if it was when I was away over the weekend. I didn't notice it last night. Then, I spent all day putting together the episode, making sure because getting the intro together, actually going out tonight, going to see Tyler Childers. I bought those tickets forever ago. It's funny when you buy a concert, you're like, it's middle of the week. You're like, come on, I'm my own boss. I'll take a day off. And then I don't know what happened over the last couple of days. There's been so much shenanigans in the news. I'm sitting on like 40 slides here, which we're not going to get through. And so I spent all day. I'm putting this stuff together. I was like, all right, intro's done. Let's go to the gym. We'll get here. We'll do an episode. And then I accidentally ate some dairy. So I might projectile vomit at this show tonight. And then I'll just have to tell security, hey, listen, I did a bunch of drugs because I'm super cool. And you can throw me out. I'm leaving anyways. I just puked myself. I wasn't going to stay for the show. And then I was rushing to get here, locked myself out of my apartment. I think the Lord's sending me some signs. I gotta you know what? I'm now pro-Israel, everybody. I retract everything I've ever said. We're gonna cut all those slides out of this. And I gotta repent to the Lord because that's some bad omens right there. If anyone here's got some good juju you could throw over my way so I don't puke myself tonight or find more dead birds in my apartment, it would be greatly appreciated. But anyways, we got a long episode. We'll probably come back and do an extra episode on Thursday or something like that because I think I got more than I'm going to be able to cover. There's a lot going on in the news. There's weeks when there's not a lot going on, and man, was there a lot of shenanigans this past week. Anyways, going to be opening up for Dave Smith in Dallas this upcoming weekend, and then I got another run out in California. What do we got? What do we got in California? I know I'm doing Hawthorne again by Brian McWilliams. That's always a fun show. Going to be one of the few live podcasts of the tour. Then I'm going to do Aguanga, California, which last year was an awesome show. I believe Fast Heart Mart. You guys know him from the intro. I got to bring back that awesome song, Put Me in a Good Mood. He's going to be out there. And then I added, I think, a somewhere else in California. And I think I got a person who might come out and film these shows, film the run, kind of document the whole thing. So, make me look good if we actually got someone filming. Show up, porchtour.com, and still looking for some more cities. And then we'll get to the news. It's too much chatter and plugging up front. We got a lot to cover here. But no one in Charleston's come forward with a porch yet. I know you got a porch. I know you got a backyard. I'm still trying to add in New York City. I reached out to a couple of venues, looking for a venue in Chicago. Kind of want to add, it doesn't matter. Anyways, porchstore.com. And if you got a porch, I'm still adding some shows. So hit me up. All right, let's go. Let's see what we got going on. This is the first topic I wanted to get into is, I'm sure all of you guys found it amusing last week how political, the government coming out and making statements about Tylenol is. Suddenly Donald Trump's against Tylenol and people are the world's biggest Tylenol enthusiasts. The people that you never heard from, they weren't wearing Tylenols around their neck like masks, but suddenly this government's against Tylenol, and you got people out there who apparently were really into Tylenol, and they're going to take it while pregnant just to spite Donald Trump and show the fact that Donald Trump's not going to tell them that they can't take Tylenol. And then I saw people dug up a post from Tylenol saying we don't actually recommend it for pregnant people. And then, of course, Tylenol retracts that and like, that's out of context. That was 4 years ago before anyone made a recommendation. I also saw Bob Murphy post that, they don't recommend that you put the Q-tips in your ear, and we're all shoving Q-tips into our ear. So, it's very corporation-like to put out a product and go, we don't actually recommend that anyone takes this product. I mean, it's clearly here for this purpose, but, we take no liability for you consuming it, nor should you consume it. We know all of you are shoving these into your ears, but nobody should shove these into your ears. No one buys a Q-tip for any other purpose, but it's right on the thing. Don't put this in your ear. So that way, when you finally have it after 67 years of shoving a Q-tip in your ear and the whole thing just comes off in your ear, they're like, hey, we told you not even to put that in there. All right. So I thought it was kind of funny. At first, I thought that the Tylenol thing was a recent tweet. Turns out it wasn't a recent tweet. It was an old school tweet from a long time ago, and they're trying to say that it was pulled out of context. But I was just thinking, because everything, it doesn't matter what Trump does. Listen, I rail against Trump quite a bit over here, and I think that there's quite a bit to rail about. But when suddenly the guy just says the statement about Tylenol, and everyone's like, no, Tylenol's the greatest thing that ever happened to my life. Don't you touch my Tylenol. You're like, you guys are being a little bit stupid. And by the way, I don't have an opinion on Tylenol. Lucky for me, I can't get pregnant. All I can do is accidentally get dairy and hope I don't shit and piss and throw up on myself at a concert. But anyways, I was thinking this would be a great move by the Donald Trump administration, is to make a statement that they are now recommending that nobody consume or make use of any objects that include a chemical warning from the state of California. Because, when you're OCD, sometimes you pick up on things that no one else picks up on. And I remember once I was like in a high school and I sat in a chair and I had a little tag there that said, this chair has chemicals known to the state of California to cause cancer. And I'm like, well, why isn't California sharing that with the other states? Why am I sitting in a chair that is known to the state of California for causing cancer? And go pay attention. I've seen these warnings all over the place where they'll sell it to you. I think even in California they will, but I guess California, they got more liability or whatever. And so they just like throwing these tags on everything that says known to the state of California for causing cancer. And I'd love to see RFK come out against some of these chemicals. So then the California liberals, the Gavin Newsom, has to come out and go, no, that's an important industry to the state of California. And we would never tell you that when you're like, well, you've been recommending for the last 30 years that no one's supposed to do this thing. And they're like, well, that was until Donald Trump was against it. And now we actually like all the chemicals that were known to the state of California to be causing chemicals. And we're actually going to go the other way and recommend that everyone consume more of them. Now, this one turned out to be complete and total fake news. But there was a rumor making the headlines that Ice Cube's bus had been firebombed because people mistook his Ice Cube bus for ice. And we understand that the trans are weaning themselves off these chemicals, or they're nervous that they won't get access to these chemicals. Some of these Antifa people, they're getting riled up and they're engaging in more political violence. They're trying to, you want to talk about irony. Now you've got the liberals trying to demask ICE agents. Suddenly the liberals are really against wearing masks in public, and they're trying to demask people who just feel safe in their mask. Talk about the way that the world is 360, 180 on us, and everything's backwards in the universe, where the Democrats are digging into the Epstein storyline and Trump's going, hey, nothing to see here. we also got the liberals who are upset about people wearing masks. And so the story was that Ice Cube's bus was firebombed, which I don't think it actually happened, but I do think that they should make the movie, oh, hell nah, starring Ice Cube going after Antifa. I mean, if someone in Hollywood didn't see that news story and think of the Ice Cube story of going after Antifa and some undercover action, then you missed a good opportunity here for some movie-making magic of Ice Cube yelling for a full hour and a half, which is all he does. All right, now we do have some good buffoonery, which is Donald Trump putting up paintings, paying tribute to all of our incredible presidents and replacing Joe Biden with the auto pen. That's good buffoonery. You got to respect good buffoonery when you see good buffoonery. And here's some other, medium level buffoonery. I got quite a few comments about this, but Donald Trump, he just won a lawsuit against YouTube. I think he was censored or deplatformed for, misinformation about the last election, not the one that he won, but the one that was supposedly stolen from him because Pennsylvania ballots and the whatnots. I don't even know what you're allowed to say on the topic. But apparently, Donald Trump won I think he's expected, I thought the number was $25 million. And, all right, we'll go with the part that annoys me about this first is, Donald Trump, that's money that's going to the Donald. Now, all right, listen, he's not just pocketing the cash. He's pulled some good moves here where he's getting free legal fees for people that went after him in the Biden administration. And then I guess he's using these free lawyers to now go after these companies for more money. And now he's not pocketing the money, or at least not this batch of money he's not pocketing. He's putting it into the Grand Ballroom, which the good buffoonery that's like donated by fans of Donald Trump, and you just list the corporations that lost lawsuits to you. I mean, there's something fun about that the guy's going to build this giant ballroom and that, liberals were upset about that. And he's not going to spend government money on it. He's not going to spend his own money on it, but he's going to go after these corporations that did him dirty. He's going to enact fines and then spend that money on a thing that will be there permanently that will piss off, like in the future, they might throw great parties there. They might even throw anti-Trump parties, or maybe they'll pull like a Tylenol move where they just refuse to use the wing because it had been built by Donald Trump. But it is somewhat funny that there will be a lasting tribute of the lawsuits that Donald Trump won against the corporations that did him dirty. That's some good buffoonery, some good pettiness. It's fun. But on all that note, if Donald Trump, if you're going to be going after these corporations for deplatforming people, can't you make it a class action and get some money for the rest of us? I'm just saying, great. So Donald Trump, he won another thing for Donald Trump. It doesn't really, I guess, in some ways, the conservatives like to be like, well, I see myself in Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump's getting something from these corporations, then we're putting these corporations back in their place. And that you're never going to be inside that ballroom. You're never going to eat fancy chicken with the fancy cutlery. You will never be invited to the White House party. You will never get to enjoy that ballroom. But you see yourself in Donald Trump, that this is a celebration that your team won. Why can't the rest of us get paychecks? If you're going to bring a class action lawsuit against YouTube for deplatforming and censoring people, firstly, you should force them to admit guilt. You shouldn't just let them. Now, I think behind the scenes what happens here is law firms contact Donald Trump and they say, hey, we think you got a lawsuit here and we'll do it for free and we think we can win it on your behalf and it'll be a good look because it punishes them for what they did to you and you'll get money from them for your things. And so, it's not like Donald Trump actually sits around and he thinks about us and he goes, well, I got all these people that are supporters of me and they were done dirty as well, so we got to make sure that they're included. It's no. As long as the money comes to me and then I can build something as a tribute to me, then we all get to feel like winners. So listen, it's fun buffoonery. It's better that this happened than it didn't happen. But there's a part of this that annoys me where it's like, if you're going to be winning lawsuits, can you go after them for the rest of us? Why is it just for you? I still want the class action lawsuit for shadow banning on channels or banning of channels for COVID misinformation that later turned out to be accurate. All right. Now, this is, again, good buffoonery, and this is Donald Trump at his best. But Trump accuses the UN of triple sabotage, orders Secret Service to investigate. And so I think there were 3 incidents One was his teleprompter didn't work, which if you did that to Joe Biden, you would have seen how much of an empty shell of a man that guy would have been. Or even better, Joe Biden off script might have been fun if there was no teleprompter there and you got to hear his inner thoughts. And all my aides, they just keep running the machine and they're giving pardons to people that they shouldn't. But hey, I made a lot of money in the Ukraine and my kid's got a big dick, so we're doing pretty good. How long have I been talking for? Am I done yet? Can someone bring me ice cream? Can I eat some ice cream or do I still gotta wait? I think I shit myself. All right, so listen, Donald Trump is a master of television that he instantly realized, hey, you guys are sabotaging me here by making me look like an asshole. You think I'm going to actually walk up all these stairs? You're going to shut down the escalator on me? And the evil stares that Melania and Donald Trump instantly shot to the side of, who do you think you are and why are you messing with me? And then apparently his teleprompter was dead. And then apparently also they messed up the audio while he was speaking. And but Donald Trump, he's on top of television. That's what he's good at. And he recognized instantly, hey, you guys are trying to sabotage me, and he's going after them. All right, let's take a couple of comments here for 4 in the afternoon. 167 people in the live show. That's not bad. Oliver Close off. Ha, 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 ha. You got me. Oh my God, Oliver's clothes are coming off. If Tylenol didn't recommend it to pregnant people, why was it the only thing recommended to my pregnant wife this year? Because your doctor recommended it. But you know, I couldn't tell you. People running the Tylenol Twitter account 2 years ago might be different than the people now. I'm not a doctor. I just play someone who knows things on podcasts. Lena Spat, just giving me the fire sign. Thank you. Rogie Axe. He should also replace his own picture with Netanyahu's. That's a good one. I'll give you points for that. That's a good one. Fix, I can tell you right now that the chicken sucks and their silverware ain't fancy. Have you been to the White House? Is that actual inside knowledge of being at the White House? Or are you just saying that? All right, before we do this next slide, thank you to YoKratom.com, home of the $60 kilo, and the only place in the entire world where you can get an entire kilo of Kratom for just $60. All right, you know, a lot of times I give Donald Trump shit for the negotiating tactics that he's throwing out into the world, and talk about things being flipped around. You got over here. Now the Democrats are trying to shut down the government, and the Republicans are going, that's just sabotage, and no one should be shutting down governments ever. But I like this negotiating tactic. You know, usually you got to give credit where credit's due, but usually when they shut down the government, a bunch of, let's call them the non-essential employees. Let's just go with their old COVID terminology for why you weren't able to show up to work, but other people were able to show up to work. Let's just go with that one. You've got your non-critical government agencies, and so they get they get sent home for a month, and then they refund the government, and then they got to come back to their jobs that no one cared didn't exist for a month, and then they get the paycheck for the time off. And obviously, Democrats don't like reducing the size and scope of government in any capacity. They're made some sort of, you know, I don't understand who made what deals with the devil, but their side with the devil is we just always have to spend more and more and more and more and more. And so the idea of anyone in government, the thing becoming more efficient, or admitting that there's anyone in government who we don't need, or that there's any money that can't be spent, that is against the religion of the Democrats. We always need more government. We need more people in government positions. We need to spend more money. We need more people monitoring our behavior. Otherwise, the whole thing's going to fall to shit. And so we can't possibly spend even a month without these people working jobs that nobody cared about, because otherwise they might start to realize that we don't need any of them in office. And so this is a good negotiating tactic, but you got Donald Trump saying that we're going to fire a bunch of people if the government shuts down and they won't be rehired, which I guess gives them some leverage to the Democrats. And maybe I don't even really like this leverage because it's funding the government for more money. I'm over the shutting down the government topic because it's something that comes along and then they pause it for a little bit. Nobody ever spends any less money. And it's just some nonsense that we got to hear about every 6 months as they try and pretend like the other side is the guilty party. Oh, my God, we might have to shut down the government. If someone doesn't fork up the cash immediately, we're going to realize that we can actually make budget cuts. And then they never do anything anyways. It's a stupid storyline. Speaking of stupid storylines, you know, as aggravated as we've been with Trump as of late, at least myself, sometimes it's nice to be reminded of how much worse and dumber the Democrats are. Because there's moments lately where Trump's doing things that are so irritating to me that I'm like, maybe, and then you just watch Kamala Harris speak for about 30 seconds, or like, I couldn't have even done that. I can't handle it. How does she not know to just not talk and collect whatever paycheck she can? And that the more she talks, the more trouble she creates for herself, because the more exposure you have to Kamala, the more you realize you don't like it. It's like asbestos in your, no, asbestos doesn't show up till 40 years. It's like a fart. You never hang out around a fart and then start liking the fart smell more. And if someone farts again, it just gets stinkier. So, Kamala Harris is like a big old fart, where the more fart exposure you have, like if you're away from a fart for long enough, no one's farted around you, you're like, farts aren't that bad. And it's a big, heavy, fat guy blasting. You're like, man, I fucking hate farts. That's what Kamala Harris is. So, anyways, speaking of stupidity, you've got Mondami, you got the socialist out in New York, and apparently the front runner in this election. I can't believe that anyone would be so stupid that they would actually vote for this guy, but apparently he's the front runner in this thing. Eric Adams just backed out. So I guess talk about things being backwards. If you're a normal person, I guess you're rooting for Cuomo at this point, or the guy who wears the stupid berets. Just give up the stupid berets and you'd be more electable. I don't know who you spoke to in your life that told you that berets have like magical powers that were cool, unless you're a paratrooper on a military mission where you're obligated to wear it, or you're some creep out in France who pretends to paint and then manages to get like American women to sleep with you because you wear the beret. There's the only two reasons anyone should ever be wearing a beret, or as a costume to be like, look how much of an idiot I look like. Just give up the beret and you might have a chance. If someone could get that message to that guy, the guy who used to supposedly beat up people on subways. Anyways, back to the stupidity of the Democrats as they champion this man who might be able to win the mayor of New York City. We've got Mondami pledges to spend $100 million more for free lawyers to help migrants facing deportation. And I mean, I think New York City spent like $7 billion dealing with illegal immigrants. And now instead of not spending resources or money on these people, you're going to spend more money to make sure that they aren't deported and that they can continue to stay and steal social services from Americans. New York City, I think, always runs a deficit. I actually seem to remember they got, or at least New York State, maybe it was New York City, got a nice big fat bailout during COVID that had nothing to do with COVID, that kind of washed over just how much deficit spending there was in New York City. And let me tell you, liberal areas failing can educate people to the idea that higher taxes and pushing out businesses is not a winning formula. But here, not only do you have a dumb policy of embracing illegal immigrants, which Eric Adams learned his lesson about and walked back when he suddenly couldn't afford social services for actual New Yorkers. And now you got this guy who's pledging that he will fight the federal government and get legal help for those that the federal government is trying to deport. I mean, talk about a stupid policy. All right, we're going to fly through this. We might just get through all my slides. Donald J. Trump is going after, or the administration is going after, help me out here. Who was the old head of the FBI who, was there for the beginning of Operation Crossfire Hurricane, real tall guy. And then he got fired from his job. They replaced him with Chris Wray. I'm just going to keep saying words until someone in the chat helps me out and throws the name in there so I can remember it. But anyways, you got this tall head of the FBI, Comey. Thank you. Comey. He's going after Comey. And now I want to read you this tweet because this is a ballsy tweet. Usually the president guy never speaks to the Justice Department. You pull the Biden move. All these lawsuits, that has nothing to do with me. You got to talk to the Justice Department about that. You got to go talk to that person who I heard it from that person. They usually pull the Fauci COVID move. I never did anything. I never saw anything. I only collected a paycheck. It's always that guy told me. That guy. I didn't have the authority. He didn't have the authority. I mean, everyone's got to follow whatever we tell you, but until we find out that we weren't allowed to tell you that, it's like, I never said nothing. I never saw nothing. I don't even know who said it to you. Actually, you're an idiot for listening to us. But then just try and not listen to us the next time. Try and play that as an excuse the next time. Well, last time you said something, you then walked it back 3 years later, and everyone was like, I never said it. So, one of you guys going to go on the record is that you're the one who's saying it and that you have the authority to do so? Because if not, then it sounds like no one's actually telling me that I have to do something. Good luck playing that card. But usually, they try and have as much plausible deniability as possible. Not Donald Trump. In this case, made online statement to Pam Bondi of, hey, you got to go after Comey because the clock's running out. Let's read the statement. This is from Truth Social. Pam, I've reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time, all talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, and Letitia James? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. Then we almost put in a Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past. A woke rhino who is never going to do his job. That's why two of the worst Democratic senators pushed him so hard. He even lied to the media and said he quit when he had no case. No, I fired him, and there is a great case, and many lawyers, I have no idea what he's talking about here. Anyways, Lindsey Halligan is a really good lawyer and likes you a lot. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now, President Donald J. Trump. And so here you have it, laying out the gauntlet, letting people know, yes, I am pressuring my Justice Department into going after Comey. And now, in terms of going after Comey, I mean, firstly, I wish it was for, all right, let's go with the positive first. You're going after him for actually engaging in illegal activity, and the illegal activity that you're going after him for is lying to Congress. The lie that he made to Congress was whether or not he had approved or engaged in leaks. And he made statements, I believe it might have been under questioning by Thomas Massey. Usually I review all my slides beforehand, but I'm a bit against the clock. I believe I have a video, and it might be later in the collection. I wish it was for more nefarious criminal activity, such as, working with the deep state against Donald J. Trump and doing the whole crossfire hurricane thing. There was actually a great article on Zero Hedge that recapped all of the more egregious things that Comey did. And I believe one of the things that was on the list was both being in charge of the investigation into Hillary Clinton and then also being like, oh, there's not enough information here to go off of. But there were a bunch of shady things that Comey engaged in. For everyone who's like, this is just political, you're going after people for actual crimes and crimes that people have been prosecuted for in the past. And unlike Donald Trump on, for example, mortgage fraud, which is actually something that everyone, I think everyone has lower numbers when they're telling what it's worth for taxes and higher numbers when they're trying to get a loan. I think everyone does that. And when corporations lost no money initiating a loan, we're happy that they did that business. I don't exactly know who you're protecting when you start going after him, other than that's a fraudulent case. But when people are lying to Congress, and we need to have some ability to actually overwatch, like that's a current problem in our government, is that people just show up and go per ongoing investigations, or I can't remember, and it's very hard to catch them in lies. But when they actually do lie, I think it is a benefit to us if we prosecute these people when they lie to Congress. And I think that should be done across the board. I don't think it's a bad precedent when a new administration comes in and goes after people for lies that they told to Congress. And so in this case, they're actually trying to go after the guy for criminal activity. And I think that makes sense. And I don't understand all the people that are complaining about it. This is not some rule that's buried deep in the books, like they went after Trump for the treason clause of this from the 1910s. This is something that people do get in trouble for. Not James Clapper, but people do get in trouble for. And I think it's actually an important rule to enforce. Now, I think it's going to look real bad for the Donald Trump administration if they end up opening up these cases against Comey and they can't beat Comey. I don't think that's going to be a particularly good look. And I think the fact that they seem to be hesitant to bring the case until Donald Trump's like, hey, you guys are running out the clock right now. You got to file this thing immediately. Seems like he'd have enough time to have put the thing together. It's not going to be a good look if they can't win it, but I don't think that there's anything corrupt about pursuing that case. And I actually think the fact that it's just that case and not something way worse is almost a favor to Comey. And maybe the fact that they've opened up this case, that maybe that opens up the statute of limitations or widens. I don't know how that works. It could just be statute of limitations on everything else is already passed, but they can pursue that one case. Now, this was kind of wild. You had a leaked memo saying that a stunning 274 agents on January 6 were there while it was going on. Now, there's a couple oddities in this storyline. There's a couple of them, okay? First and foremost, I did an intro joke about this a while back, but it turned out that the FBI said that they had informants, but no actual FBI members or no one who worked directly for the FBI. And I made it, I believe that this was in an intro where I was like, yeah, that's the way that you do things with plausible deniability. It's like, no, imagine a Mission Impossible opening scene where they're like, all right, we've got this mission, and if anyone finds out that this mission was happening, we will take full responsibility. It seems to me like informants or people outside of the organization that we're working with are exactly the steps you would take when you're doing things that if you got caught doing would completely ruin your organization because you're clearly working against the American people or pulling some shady shit. It's like in Rambo. If you get caught while you're in there, we're going to say we had nothing to do with you and we had no idea that this was going on. Do you actually think when they do crazy shit that it's currently employed people? Or do you magically get fired a week before your mission, or you've got a job that's off the books, but that's where you secretly work? Okay. So first and foremost, we already knew that there were a lot of people that the FBI had been working with, but weren't currently employed at the FBI. And now this new storyline is that apparently the FBI deployed nearly 300 plainclothes agents on that day. And then we're going to see some clips from Chris Wray and Merrick Garland, in which it seems like they perjured themselves in regards to whether or not the FBI had agents there on that day. But this still seems like a half story, and maybe it's because I'm too conspiratorial, but I don't believe that the FBI had hundreds of informants and that they also had hundreds of plainclothes officers, but they had no involvement in what was going on. They were just, and they had no foreknowledge that there could be a problem, but they needed both informants on the ground and 300 plainclothes. Just observe and not do anything, just to gather intelligence for the next time. They had no reason to even consider that something could happen on that day, that perhaps more precautions should have been taken. But they needed to have upwards of 600 people out there collecting information and informing on things that weren't going to happen. And that's the storyline that we're supposed to believe here. And now the storyline is that the 300 people that were sent out that day were very upset because they weren't involved in what was going on. And they were then put into a dicey situation because there wasn't enough management of all the I am calling bullshit on this one. I mean, even the official storyline's bullshit. There was no reason to suspect anything, but they had hundreds of agents there. And then the agents were just upset with the higher-ups that they were put into a dicey situation without backup or better organization. And here, I got a clip here. Let's see if this is the Merrick Garland or if it's the Chris Wray. And you guys can let me know if we got sound or not. Let's roll a clip.
Okay, I was hoping today to give you...
All right, so we got Merrick Garland up against Thomas Massie, and as indictments are coming down on people for lying to Congress, hopefully we'll see indictments also against Chris Wray and against Merrick Garland. But here you've got Merrick Garland on the topic of whether or not there were FBI agents on the day of January 6th, and it would seem to me like he most certainly lied before Congress. Let's give it a play.
An opportunity to put to rest the concerns that people have that there were federal agents or assets of the federal government present on January 5th and January 6th. Can you tell us, without talking about particular incidents or particular videos, how many agents or assets of the federal government were present on January 6th, whether they agitated to go into the Capitol, and if any of them did?
So I'm not going to violate this norm of the rule of law. I'm not going to comment on an investigation that's ongoing.
Now, in that video, that was your answer to a question to me 2 years ago.
By the way, I don't know what investigation was ongoing into whether or not there were FBI agents on the ground on January 6th. I don't know what investigation would be ruined by giving commentary on that. But like I said, it's hard to get these guys perjuring themselves because sometimes they pull the Mueller, I don't remember nothing. I actually got dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's all at once. And then other times they pull the ongoing investigation claim. But let's continue.
When I said how many agents or assets of the government were present on January 5th and January 6th and agitating in the crowd to go into the Capitol, and how many went into the Capitol, can you answer that now?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh, last time, you don't know how many there were or there were none?
I don't know the answer to either of those questions. If there were any, I don't know how many. I don't know whether there are any.
I think you may have just perjured yourself that you don't know that there were any. You want to say that again, that you don't know that there were
I have
any?
no personal knowledge of this matter. I think what I said the last time.
You've had 2 years to find out. You know, were there any confidential human sources involved from the FBI or any other agency in the erection of that prop, those gallows?
I'm not aware of anything like that.
So now we're switching to Chris Wray. So that was Merrick Garland. I think that last statement of I don't know. Firstly, they seem contradictory. Of the I don't know if there were any, and I already forgot the statement. That's my ADD. But anyways, we're moving on from Merrick Garland to now Chris Wray, and I'll play the clips, and you guys can tell me if you think he was lying about this topic as well.
Inspector General Horowitz, over the past 3 years, I've questioned FBI Director Wray and Attorney General Merrick Garland about the federal assets, such as confidential human sources that were present on January 6th at the Capitol. And they have continuously stonewalled me. We've got no answers whatsoever about this from them. Do you have evidence of the number of confidential human sources that were operating on the Capitol grounds on January 6th?
Our report will include the information in that regard.
Can you tell us today how many there were? Were there more than 100?
I'm not in a position to say that, both because it's in draft form and we have not gone through the classification review. And so I need to be careful.
And we're 4 years, almost 4 years into this report. When is it going to be released?
It's certainly my hope and expectation, although I don't control this entirely because it has to go through a classification review, but certainly in the next.
I just want to fast forward and see if there's another Chris Wray clip
that
here.
there were confidential human sources at the Capitol. Can you tell us today how many went into the Capitol?
I'll have that information in the report. I'm not able to speak to information
All right, let's continue to our next topic. And before we do, let's plug sheathunderwear.com. You can actually just go to sheath.com because they bought that domain a while ago. I'm currently wearing my sheaths right now. What do I got? I got the grays. These are mesh. And let me tell you, they are silky as hell. I forgot to open up the window in here. It's some hot, sweaty armpits up in here. But you know what's not hot and sweaty? It's my balls because they're protected by sheathunderwear.com. And I got the cool mesh ones right here. My legs have gotten fat enough that I like the larges. Fat, or if I've been doing too many squats and I've grown these calf and thigh muscles, I'll let you be the judge when you come out to a porch tour. But anyways, you got to go to sheath.com, use promo code RYM, get yourself 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. Because let me tell you, I wouldn't have this kind of walking dexterity and smoothness between my legs and smile on my face if I was wearing shitty old underwear and my fat thighs were rubbing together. So if you want to feel this silky smoothness between your legs, you go to sheath.com, use promo code RYM, and you get 20% off the greatest underwear that's ever graced the balls of man. I thought that this one was a fun headline. You got Microsoft is cutting ties with Israel on a particular technology because the way it was using its technology for surveillance in Palestine. I'm sorry, in Gaza. And you got to wonder how evil what you're doing is up to. And even Microsoft's like, we want no part of this. Even if you're giving us money, we don't want to have any part of this whatsoever. And then you had Netanyahu gave a whole nother speech already in front of the UN. For those that stuck around for it, a lot of people walked out, but some people stuck around for it. And this guy's got to make like a kid's book with these drawings he brings out there. And then the Jews return to, and you get the smiley Jews, and then you get Iran with the bombs. Can someone should make the kids book for the little kids out there that might be, watching a little bit too much TikTok and absorbing all the propaganda from other people. And here, let's oh, okay. Yeah. I wanted to play this clip. I thought that here's a clip of Netanyahu talking to the UN. I'll play it and then I will give my comments. Here we go.
This week, the leaders of France, Britain, Australia, Canada, and other countries unconditionally recognized a Palestinian state. They did so after the horrors committed by Hamas on October 7th. Horrors praised on that day by nearly 90% of the Palestinian population. And let me say that again. Nearly 90% of Palestinians supported the attack on October 7th. It's not supported only, they celebrated it. They danced on the rooftops. They threw candies.
Suddenly we got a problem with dancing on rooftops? I mean, are you trying to rig the Google algorithm that if someone's Googling dancing on rooftops, they're seeing a Netanyahu speech about people out in Gaza? I mean, if there was a verbiage you'd think a guy from Israel would want to avoid, it's talking about a tragedy taking place and then people dancing on rooftops. All right, I want to comment on this. Barconius, make usury illegal again. Is the definition of usury just loaning with interest? Because I'm pretty sure that that would be the foundation for all of capitalism, in time preference and the ability of taking money you earned and giving it to somebody else and then having them pay you back in interest, and that being an incentive to create loans. Now, I got a problem with the Federal Reserve. I got a problem with even the fractional reserve banking system, but I don't actually understand why anyone who enjoys freedom and capitalism would be against somebody voluntarily lending money to somebody else at an interest rate. Marconi is saying it's not the foundation for capitalism. I don't even know if that was the verbiage I just said, but fine, I'll change it to I think it's an important aspect of capitalism, and I don't think that you'd have a successful free society without the ability to lend money at interest. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the point is. Currency is fraud, Robbie. Well, government currency could be fraud. I mean, would you say all of like if we were to pick a currency that it's fraud? Is Bitcoin fraud? If the entire world started using Bitcoin, would that be fraud? Or if we all decided that gold, we were going to transact in gold, does that make it fraud as well? I mean, I understand fractional reserve banking and the US dollar system might be fraud, but the concept of money is fraud. I don't get you guys here. But listen, comments are open. You're free to rebut, or I'll tell you what. I will I direct you to the English Empire post the order of expulsion. I don't know how that takes on what I just said. I'll tell you what. You know what? You guys can comment away, and I'll address the comments, or you can even shoot me an email, robsnewsroom@gmail.com. I think I've seen Barconius post this more than once as comments that you think that usury should be illegal. And why don't you come on and you can, either share your opinion or maybe even debate me on it. I'll hear you out. I will hear you out on why you think that we would have a better society if we made usury illegal and I guess government ensured that nobody could lend money at interest. I would like to understand why that would make for a better society. Angry Porcupine, why doesn't the ICC arrest him on fear charges? Seems like the perfect time. I'm not sure. Kev22, Toys R Us bucks haven't held their value. That's probably accurate. Matzo Balls, BB created October 7th after telling the IDF to stand down. Oh, wow. We're getting deeply conspiratorial here. All right, here we go. I got another clip for you. I have no idea what it is. We will play it and then comment. Roll the tape.
Leaders this week that you would not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. Is that something that you
I will not allow Israel to annex the West Bank. No, I will not allow it.
All right, I think we got into that on part of the problem. So I'm going to just skip it. Let's get into this. This was reported in the Wall Street Journal. I think there's been a lot of distractions from the Epstein storyline over the last couple weeks. And I appreciate the YouTube comments when like Hegseth's giving his speech or whenever they're doing these other things. And everyone's like, just show us the Epstein list. Now Donald Trump, he wants to release the files on that pilot that died flying the world. I think she just made it over the ice wall. I think we all know what happened there. But this is from the Wall Street Journal. White House discord fueled Epstein crisis. And listen, it's Wall Street Journal, so you can throw this in your toilet. You can say that it's all fabricated nonsense. I'm just going to read to you what they reported about Trump and Epstein. Let's start with this that I highlighted. Trump, who had socialized with Epstein in New York and Florida and has said he fell out with him before his first arrest in 2006, told aides he couldn't understand why people were so obsessed with the deceased financier and sex offender, according to people familiar with his comments. People don't understand that Palm Beach in the 90s was a different time, he groused. That's already a dicey comment right there. I don't understand why anyone would be interested in anything that any of us did in the 90s when it was okay to be a bunch of creeps. And so let's not look back. Well, Cosby's already out of jail, so you don't have to let him out of jail. But that's already a darker side of that comment. Firstly, I don't understand why anyone's interested, buddy. You understand television. You fully understand why people are interested. But that's kind of a double down of a bad look when you start going. And anyway, it was the 90s. I mean, it was a different time. You can't judge us based on what was going on in the 90s. On the second day of the Tampa conference, he called influential allies. Why is everyone so fixated on the issue? He wanted to know what would make it die down. Well, I think he knows exactly why people are interested. I think that's a Trump way of being, that's the Trump confidence of wanting something to go away and being like, all right, listen, I don't even get why anyone cares about this. So how do we make it go away? Because it's not even interesting. I mean, I'm doing all of these incredible things over here, and people are just detracting from all the incredible things I'm doing when they're talking about this thing. All right, here was another one that I highlighted. Trump has told aides he was worried some of his friends might be mentioned in the files. That is in line with what Thomas Massie was saying, was that Donald Trump was probably not implicated, but he thought that some of Donald Trump's friends might be, and so that Donald Trump was running cover for friends, and has complained that people should be talking about the administration's wins, not about Epstein, according to people familiar with the comments. Now, this is a mainstream news publication, not attributing any source and just saying people familiar with the comments. So you can take it for what it is. I'm just letting you know what they reported. According to people familiar with the comments, at other times, he worried that the files might have been doctored to hurt him. All right. And then just one more random paragraph that I highlighted. In May, after a Justice Department review of the case files, Bondi and her deputy updated the president. They told him, according to senior administration officials, that his name was in the files, along with many others, itself no sign of wrongdoing. They told him that there were no criminal cases to be made against anyone else, and they didn't plan to release any more of the documents, blah, 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 blah. All right. I think let's cover two more topics, and then actually, you know what? I might do one more and then bring it back here because I wanted to do some stuff on tariffs, and then I had some kind of conspiracy stuff. So we'll just do this as the last topic for today, and then I will be back later this week for another episode because we got a lot of random stuff to cover. I got I don't know, like 20 more slides here, including Peter Thiel with the Antichrist. We've got the Tony Blair is the new leader of Gaza, a guy who sold the Iraq war and has since been making all sorts of money out in the Middle East. We got all sorts of things we got to cover. What else do we got to cover? We've got, this comedy festival that everyone's all upset about. But anyways, we'll cover this one last thing, and then I'll be back later in the week for another one. Trump told Zelensky he is open to providing long-range arms, and in the conversation that we've been talking about for a long time of the mistake of possible escalations in this war against Russia, as opposed to just washing ourselves, being done with it, and forcing Zelensky to call it a day. We now have that Trump is flirting with the idea of selling Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine so that Ukraine can actually engage in more offensive operations against Russia, which thus far we have not allowed the Ukrainians to use military equipment that we've sent them to engage in offensive endeavors, which sounds like sending them some of our best military gear for offensive endeavors would be a dangerous escalation. All right, that is our episode for today. I got a lot of slides, so maybe Thursday night I will try and do another episode, and I'll take a couple comments. All right, Lucas Jones, fractional reserve is the difference between currency and money. Gold, silver, Bitcoin, etc. are all real goods. Maybe you're just too autistic for me because I think if we were using those as money, to refer to it as currency doesn't sound like that would be an inaccurate way to refer to gold. I mean, you can call gold money, or I guess if it's being used, then you could call it currency. I agree with you, though, that fractional reserve banking is a scam. But you can have honest money, and I don't think it would then be inaccurate to call it currency. But maybe you're more autistic than I am, and I just don't get the differentiation, and you're right and I'm wrong. Lord Icy Spicy, my point is that most people miss the point of that movie. Which movie are you talking about? Did I miss a comment from you? Kev233, long arms like Slender Man. What the fuck does that shit even mean? I agree with you. Mike Tucker, great episode, homie. Glad I got to catch some of it live. And now we've got Barconius. What I meant, Robbie, is that after the Order of Explosion, England saw the greatest period of excellence it's ever known, and it had a national currency without interest because user was banned. The entire reason the Magna Carta was demanded by the citizens was due to usury. Hey, I'd have to look into that, but there was no black market for interest lending at that time? Were there any bubbles that were created because of the activities? Did government make more funds available? I don't understand how an economy would operate without a free market of the ability to lend to people with interest, which can both benefit you of giving up capital you've earned, having a financial incentive to research whether or not someone else is going to make a good investment, and an opportunity for somebody to use your earned capital to go out and fund a business venture that they couldn't otherwise fund, and then make enough profits that they could both, pay you back and have made money. I don't understand why you would have a problem with the concept of someone freely engaging in a decision to lend money to somebody else. And I think it would be very hard to have freedom and capitalism without the free ability to lend somebody else money. I think that's, the root of finance and investment. But I'm less educated than the fan base here. And so I don't know about the Order of Expulsion or this time period of that you're determining as being excellence. Maybe I got to do some homework and either be converted or debunk your claim. But just based on everything I know about free markets, I would think the ability to lend money is a great tool, both for the lender and for the person receiving the money, as it creates an opportunity for both individuals. That is our episode here. Thank you so much for hanging out. Back later in the week because we do have a ton of stuff to get into. Later, dudes.